Hello. Thank you for listening. This is the near death experience of Hal, and this experience occurred in 1952. Open quote. I lived in a rural area and had shot two rabbits for supper that night. As I was cleaning them, one of the rabbits smelled horrible. I discarded it, but had cut myself in skinning them. I came down with a high fever in the next day or so. Flu like symptoms at first, but then the fever climbed. I was taken to the hospital and slipped inside a body bag. Then I was packed in ice to reduce fever, which was still climbing. On the second or third day, I felt a shift in consciousness. I was no longer uncomfortable or frightened. I was outside my body, like being several stories above my bed, but being able to see everything in the room crisply and clearly. I remember being like at a crossroads, yet I knew this was like a dream. That is, my own consciousness was providing an image for something I didn't quite understand. At this crossroads, I knew that I had to choose. To my right was death and the solid sense of a very different world than I'd ever experienced. To my left was a road back to my body. I knew if I chose now, I would go wherever I chose, no doubt about it. I did not, however, know how to make that decision. Not out of fear, but out of realizing I had no criteria for making such a judgment. I looked down and saw my poor, emaciated body in the bed, quite still. My father sat beside the bed, weeping, holding my hand. I had never seen him weep like this before, and I thought it was very curious. I actually remember thinking, why would anyone cry because of death? I did, however, feel sad for him and think that it was only out of deference for him that I returned to my body. Close quote. Wow. That was a great story, and there's some questions here. Question. At the time of your experience, was there an associated life-threatening event? Answer. Yes. Illness, life-threatening event, but not clinical death, was later diagnosed as tularemia, rabbit fever. My father was called to the hospital in the middle of the night, apparently because I was not expected to make it. I viewed him from a great distance out of my body, though I didn't know that was what it was called at the time. Question. How do you consider the content of your experience? Answer. Positive. Question. At what time during the experience were you at your highest level of consciousness or alertness? Answer. I'd say that I was hyper alert, in that whatever I saw or experienced seemed clearer than usual. On either side of the experience, I think I was fuzzy. That is, for example, when I returned to my body and experienced through my five senses again, nothing was working quite right. I was blind for several weeks afterwards. Question. Did time seem to speed up or slow down? Answer. Space was certainly altered in the sense of being no dimension or infinity, neither beginning, middle, or end. Question. Did you pass into or through a tunnel? Answer. No, I don't think so. Though while working with a peyote shaman several years later, I relived aspects of the NDE. There was a path in the woods that was tunnel-like. Question. Did you encounter or become aware of any deceased or alive beings? Answer. No, at least not that I can say for certain. As a child, I had a spirit guide who was with me often, sort of tutoring me about the nature of the world. When I relived the experience years later, I felt his presence, but it was not like he was there in a physical body. Question. Did you see an unearthly light? Answer. Yes. Off to my right, at the crossroads, there was light, but not like a light from the sun or an electrical source. I tried to explain it at the time as a void or place that was neither light nor dark, of no dimension or infinite dimension and form. Not easy even today to describe it. When I hear other people describe the light of NDE, my interpretation is that their minds put this no dimension into a known experience for the sake of making sense of it. I am satisfied describing it as no dimension. Question: did you seem to enter some other unearthly world? Answer: I can't easily describe it, but the sense of infinity or no dimension was profound to me and has been a central feature of the spiritual practice and beliefs that I still hold today. Question: did you suddenly seem to understand everything? Answer: at the time, I was terribly bewildered. I spent the next 20 years pursuing some way to understand what had occurred. Still cannot hold in my mind this profound experience of no dimension and the realization that the everyday physical world is not at all what we think it is. Don't ask me what it is, however, though I suspect it is ultimately pure spirit, not a physical form, or that physical forms are created out of spirit through something that all forms we recognize in this lifetime help to produce. Not exactly sure what that means, however. Question: did scenes from your past come back to you? Answer: not really. What I did experience was how much of my experience in the world was projection from my own consciousness. I was unable to articulate this for many years, but that is definitely what it was. That awareness, in fact, set me on a long quest which ultimately brought me to my present spiritual practice, which is earth-based and has to do with not knowing as much as knowing. Question: did scenes from the future come to you? Answer: scenes from the world future, but in a pretty grounded way, surprisingly, which developed over the years more and more. I describe it as being able to read the form of an event or a question a person asks, or just the person's presence itself, and predict how they are going to express their lives. I did psychic counseling for a couple of years, but found that it was intrusive, violating the belief, which I do try to honor, that when people are ready to hear about themselves, they will do so. What I was doing sort of stepped outside all that. I didn't feel that it was productive and in some ways even disruptive. Besides, I didn't like getting inside people's consciousness. I have enough trouble dealing with my own and don't like meddling. Question: did you come to a border or point of no return? Answer: I think I've described this above. I knew that I had a choice to make between life and death. It was my choice at that point. I also realized that it would not always be my choice and that I would one day be at this juncture again and have no choice. Question: what was your religion prior to your experience? Answer: moderate. I suppose I was pretty conservative, as my parents were both right of center, but many contradictions, however, since they were also very generous in community work, equal rights, grassroots change, which was humanistic. What is your religion now? Answer: liberal. Question: did you have a change in your values and beliefs because of your experience? Answer: yes. I think that at 16, when I got ill, I pretty much believed I had it all figured out. Don't all teenagers? Afterwards, I was very confused after attempting to integrate what I had experienced with everyday life. Was very nihilistic for many years, even suicidal, perhaps wanting to go back to better understand what death was. I lived through a very dark life for many years, but received a real breakthrough and clarity in the 1960s and 1970s through work with a peyote shaman and other psychotropics. I considered these extremely dangerous and use no drugs today, but also believe that the understanding that I came to through the drugs brought me to a spiritual discipline that I hold today. Question: was the experience difficult to express in words? Answer: yes. It took many years to articulate and understand what I'd experienced. When I tried to talk about it at first, I quickly became aware that my parents and physicians thought I might be crazy. So I kept quiet, knowing it wasn't that, in fact, I had seen a truth that I felt quite certain about, even though I didn't understand it. Question. Do you have any psychic, non-ordinary, or other special gifts after your experience that you did not have before the experience? Answer, yes. As I've said above, the experience of no dimension, the understanding of the nature of projection, and the ability to do what I call read the forms all seem to indicate a yes answer here. None of this seems to conform exactly to other discussions of the paranormal that I've read about. So I mostly don't talk about it or let others know very much about the part it plays in my life. Are there one or several parts of the experience that are especially meaningful or significant to you? Answer. The best part was being able to see no dimension and to have the roots of understanding around the role that projection plays in our lives. This would eventually come to bear in my spiritual disciplines, which took many years to develop. At 30, creativity served me. At 40, the path of greatest comfort was found in the spiritual. Question. Have you ever shared this experience with others? Answer, yes, I've written about it. Also, it was very useful for me when I sat with my parents in their deaths. I was called to be their guides in the crossing, and both were able to pass over in a very conscious way. All my own experiences made the struggle to give up the physical form much easier through conversations with them, though being able to process the family's role so that we could all be supportive, etc. No airy-fairy stuff, just good support and understanding of the death process. Question. At any time in your life, has anything ever reproduced any part of the experience? Answer, yes. As noted above, I worked with peyote and other entheogens. Question. Is there anything else that you would like to add about your experience? Answer. It's my belief, based on all of this, that the mystery of life, the mystery of the finite world, is still wide open. I have to say that I keep looking at infinity and no dimension for understanding, but they don't give back what my brain seems to ask for. The brain being a finite form, presumably, it does not seem capable of letting go of that illusion long enough to let in the bigger truth. End quote, end questions, and my brain is right there. I'm working on it, though. I'm working on it. Infinity. I'm working on it. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.